guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. This month I read a total of 9 books and 2,979 pages. When I just did all of the adding up before I started filming this video, I was actually really surprised by the fact that I'd read 9 books. I hadn't really sort of noticed that I'd read that many books across the month of June, so it was an absolutely fantastic reading month for me. I read a lot of good books. I don't think any of them were 5 stars, but I read a lot of good books that I liked. So let's get into the ones that I read in June. The first book that I finished in June was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles series. I read the first book last year, and so it's taken me about a year to pick up the second one. And I'm kind of a bit miffed about why I waited so long, because this was a really good continuation. The Lunar Chronicles is a series which takes fairy tales and retells them. So there are 4 books in the series, Cinder, Scarlet, Cress and Winter, and each one is based on a fairy tale, but all of the stories weave together. So Cinder is obviously based on Cinderella, Scarlet is based on Little Red Riding Hood, Cress is based on Rapunzel, and Winter is based on Snow White. So obviously I can't tell you what this book is about because spoilers, but Cinder obviously is a retelling of Cinderella, and it follows Cinder, the main character, who is a cyborg, and one day she meets the prince, and it's sort of like, they're like sci-fi retellings. So she meets the prince and sort of their lives start intertwining from there. So this is the continuation, Scarlet. I really liked this. I picked this up while I was reading some of the heavier literary fiction for the Bailey's Prize, and this was something really light to have in between. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I'm really looking forward to picking up the 3rd book in the series. The second book that I finished in June was Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Tien. This was the last book that I read for the Bailey's Prize. I'm not going to talk too much about it here because I've done a wrap up of all of the books that I read for the Bailey's Prize shortlist, and I've also done a separate review of this book. But this is one of the ones that I liked, and it's a bit better than the others. This is a novel that follows a family across generations, and it talks mostly about Chairman Mao's rule in China and the revolution and the Tiananmen Square process and things like that. But it's also a lot to do with music and sort of protest and things like that. And I did really end up enjoying this. It's told in a really unique way. I really liked the characters, and it was a good read, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book was an audiobook that I listened to, which was the first ever audiobook that I've listened to. I decided to sign up to Audible in May and got my first credit. So I thought that I would start listening to the remaining Harry Potter books that I want to reread this year. I hadn't got around to rereading any of them yet, so started off with this one. So Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. The audiobook that I chose was narrated by Stephen Fry. I absolutely love Stephen Fry anyway, and his narration is really great. So I would say that the 3rd book in the Harry Potter series is probably one of my least favourite of the 7, but there were a lot of details in here that I'd kind of forgotten, you know, in the 10 years or so that it's been since I've read them. And yeah, it was lovely kind of picking those things up again and remembering things. I'm trying to watch the films, or I was before reading the books, rereading the books and then rewatching the films, but I haven't managed to rewatch the 3rd film yet, so that's something I'll do probably in the next couple of weeks. But I really enjoyed that, and that one I gave 4 stars. The next book that I read was Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. This is a YA contemporary book, and it follows 3 characters. One is called Greg, one is called Earl, and one is called Rachel. Yeah, Rachel. And this basically is about Greg and his friendship with Earl, and then him being sort of forced into being friends with this girl called Rachel because she is dying of leukemia, and sort of about their friendship and sort of his experience of high school and that sort of thing. I bought a copy of this, I think towards the end of last year. I'd seen it on a couple of people's channels, and this was made into a film, I think again towards the end of last year, maybe a little bit earlier than that. I didn't really end up enjoying this. I gave it 2 stars in the end. You know, it was funny in places, but I don't think it was anything really special. It's told partly in prose and partly in sort of scripts, so you get like sort of little sections like this, so it's quite quick to read. But like I said, I just don't think there was anything particularly special about it or special about the story. You know, and this is the sort of book where, you know, just from reading the title you might expect to be a little bit sort of emotional about it, but I sort of wasn't. Yeah, and I don't know whether I should feel bad about that or not, but yeah, not really one for me. Next up, I read Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. Again, I've done a full review of this on my channel, which I'll link in the card symbols. So I'm not going to talk too much about it here. If you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts, please go check out my review. This is Paula Hawkins' second novel. It's a multi-perspective psychological thriller. Psychological thriller? Would you class it as a psychological thriller? I don't really know, I have this big line across it. Yeah, but it's a thriller nonetheless, and it centres around this little village in the north of England, and a river which runs through this village, and then sort of this place in the river called the Drowning Pool, where lots of girls have died, partly in mysterious circumstances. And at the beginning of the book, another woman has died, so one of the perspectives that we get is from her sister, who kind of drives down, I think, to kind of see what's going on and to look after her sister's daughter. Really enjoyed this one, gave it 4.5 stars. I'll continue to buy Paula Hawkins novels and read them. Love them as thrillers, I think they're really, really good. The next book that I read in June was Midnight Sun by Jo Nesbø. This is, at the moment it's a duology, and I think it's called the Blood on Snow duology. And the first book centres around a character called Olav, who is part of a criminal gang called the Fishermen in Oslo, and in the first book he does something wrong, he doesn't follow his boss's orders, and then it's about kind of the fallout of that. This is the second book in what appears to be just a duology at the moment, and it follows a different character from within the Fisherman gang. So you know, won't say too much more about what it's about. These are sort of hit and miss for me. I'm a big fan of Jo Nesbø's Harry Hole series. If you're into crime novels, I would definitely recommend those. I've got a number of them downstairs, and I really, really enjoy that series. These ones, because the Harry Hole series are told from the perspective of a detective, Harry Hole, these ones are told from the perspective of criminals, which is sort of a different thing for Nesbø to be doing. I quite liked the story. I was invested in it. It was really quick to get through. They're only really short, almost like novellas. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Yeah, it was good. I wasn't blown away by it, but you know, something quick to get through, you know. Yeah, so that was 3 stars. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about are ones that I finished for the book swapathon, which ran from the 18th to the 24th of June. I've done a wrap up of my experience and what I read during book swapathon, which I'll link up here. So I'm not going to talk too much about these here, but the first one was A Guide to Being Born by Ramona Ozabel, which is a collection of short stories all about the idea of birth, and you know, conceiving and giving birth and, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. I quite enjoyed some of the stories in here, other ones I didn't really get. So this was a 3-star collection for me, and I said in my wrap up video that if I'm going to pick up more adult short stories, they will probably be more realist, because I felt that this was a little bit too surreal for me. And then the other book that I finished in the book swapathon was The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. I really ended up enjoying this in the end. This is the second Emma Donoghue book that I have read, and this is a historical fiction that centres around a little girl who hasn't eaten for 4 months. And we read from the perspective of Lib, who is a nurse that's been sent to watch the girl along with another nurse for a couple of weeks to see how she is managing to live without food. Yeah, I found Emma Donoghue's writing really compelling and really beautiful. I really enjoyed the story. The chapters are quite long in this, but by the end of the book I was sort of racing through it at the end, and I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely one that I would recommend. And then the last book that I finished in June was Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. This is one that I started for the book swapathon but didn't manage to finish in that week, but I have finished it subsequently. This is a non-fiction book which chronicles part of the life, or most of the life, of Chris McCandless, who was a young sort of adventurer. He died in the Alaskan wilderness, and it's about sort of like, it chronicles his journey into Alaska, sort of what led to him going there. It talks about his early life, about his family, and about lots of different moments along the way, and then about kind of what happened to him, and surmising how he died and things like that. I quite enjoyed this. I've heard a couple of people that have commented on my book swapathon TBR or wrap up, I think, have talked about the fact that they didn't really like this that much. I didn't think it was anything particularly special. I was interested in reading about his life. I think it would have been more compelling if it was more fiction based on real events, if it was told from his point of view. I think that would have been a lot more compelling, but I did still find it quite interesting, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. So there you go guys, they are all the books that I read in June. I'm so blown away by how much I read in June, how much I managed to get through. I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? What did you read in June that you would really recommend? Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.